Hi, my name is Chantal Gadoury, and I am the author of Allerleirauh. I currently live in Dover, Delaware, but originally I am from a very small town named Muncie in Pennsylvania. I love to paint, as you can see, and I love Disney, as you can see. And I also love to write and read. I love to listen to different music albums. I love discovering new music. I love to watch movies. I'm a big fan of BBC historical movies like, like The White Queen and The Tudors, and just anything British history is my cup of tea. No pun intended. Um, I went to Susquehanna University. I graduated with a bachelor's degree in creative writing, and it was really fun. It was really fun to go there. It was a really great experience to go there. I started writing when I was in second grade. I wrote a story called A Trip to New Jersey. Third grade, I wrote a story called Lyle is a Star for a While, and I could continue on with different stories in different years, but just know that from that point forward, as I was learning to write and develop and spell and do all those things, I was continuously writing. I always had a notebook with me. Um, well into my high school years, me and my friends would exchange notebooks and create universes and write characters and use characters from different stories and from different TV shows. So I want to say I have always been writing, always. Um, College, I was writing constantly for classes, whether it was poetry, nonfiction, fiction, short story. And then I was also writing on a social media site called Tumblr, where I actually still write to this day different characters. So it's a lot of fun. I love to just write. It's just a way of expressing myself. It's kind of like a little refuge. When a bad day has happened, I can just kind of take a seat and just relax and be somebody else for a few minutes. The first time I conceived the idea for this novel was in college. I had been taking a young adult and children class, and we all had to tell a fairy tale or tell a children's story. And I decided that I wanted to retell this story, just because I know it's just not a very well known fairy tale. Originally, I knew this story from this movie right here. My dad bought me this one day when we were in a store, and mostly for the Snow White part, as you'll see here. But this story is actually the story that has just stuck with me since I ever got this. And as you'll see on here, it says Coat of Many Colors. But that is originally where I guess I really conceived the idea of this novel, because since watching that movie or that show, the idea of this fairy tale just stuck with me well through my childhood, well through my teenage years, and as you see now. I tried to write this story in college, and it didn't work out so well. So I kind of put it on the back burner in hopes that someday I would come back to it. So when 7 Days of Summer was kind of cooling down, I just didn't have anything else to write. I was kind of done, and I needed to move on. I knew it was time to kind of come back to this. I had been talking to one of my close friends at the time, and she had been telling me about some experiences in her own life and stories that she wished that she could have for herself, or pass down to her children if they ever experienced anything in their life. And I was telling her about this story and how I wished I could write something that could help somebody else in their life, in the way that books have been so helpful for me in my own, I want to say, being so closed off from the world, books became my friend. So I would hope to write something someday that could be the same. I will say that the final product of this novel is actually a lot different from the original manuscripts and rough drafts that I had had originally. I really at first had intended to stick with the original fairy tale, um, replicating the three balls and the little objects that she would stick in the princess soup. And then as I was developing the prince, it just didn't feel right to me. It just didn't feel right to have her be a kitchen maid. As per the original story, the princess runs away. The prince finds her in the forest, takes her back, and she becomes like a scullery maid. And each ball that is hosted, she dresses up in the gowns that she took from her father's castle and presents herself as this mysterious princess. There's already an identity crisis for this princess, and I just felt like it wasn't the right kind of retelling that I wanted to present in my version. So, as time went by and as I was writing and developing, the original fairy tale just didn't really work for what I wanted to present in my final product. So, that's how that differs. Out of college, I actually took a story that I had been writing in a novel class and made it into a real novel. And it's called Seven Seeds of Summer, and it's a Greek mythology retelling of the story of Hades and Persephone. Um, and I don't want to say it's a retelling, it's actually kind of a continuation in the sense that it's about Persephone who has been reincarnated into a modern day um, 20th, 21st century woman. So it's pretty awesome. You should definitely check it out. A typical writing session kind of looks different each time I try. Normally, though, I am listening to a playlist that I have designed for the book. Um, I prefer writing late at night just because that's really the only time I have. I work full time, so I come back from work and I really try to make time later in the evening. Um, so normally I'm sitting here at my desk and I am playing music. Normally that music consists of classical or soundtracks. I really can't listen to music that has words to it because it's distracting. Um, the location is really here at my desk at home. I prefer to write indoors because sometimes I'll go outdoors with the intention of writing and I completely get distracted by the world and it's just too much. Um, I like to write in isolation. I can go to the library, but I feel distracted. I really like to just be in the zone. I don't like to be interrupted unless I am the one asking you questions, which I'll do a lot to my fiance. I'll, say, what would you do in this? Or, what is that word? Or read this really quick and tell me what you think. But I really don't like to be interrupted. It's just, it totally throws me from the scene, from the character, and then I really have to wait till the next day to even attempt again. My favorite book genre is romance. Um, and it really doesn't matter anything else. I like to read young adult novels, mostly. I would say like Sarah Dessen. I'm a huge Sarah Dessen fan. I love to read just about everything that has to do with romance. I've done, the adult Harlequin. I've done the normal, I want to say like Jude Devereaux and Danielle Steele. I've read all of those. Um, but my favorite preference is really just young adult fantasy romance. Those are my favorite. Currently, I am reading A Court of Thorns and Roses. It's a so far very beautiful book. I'm about halfway done, and I've been halfway for a good couple of months, so I have to finish. The second book that I've been kind of reading, kind of on and off, is Mary Poppins. My mother bought this for me for my birthday, and I promised her that I would have the time or get the time to read this. So I'm hoping that by 2016 I'll have this done. Let's hope. And then, as long as I've finished both of those books, I need to get reading on these. These are, I think, like the most up-to-date Sarah Dessen books. I know she just came out with this one, and I really need to read them. So, as long as I can get the other two novels done, I hope to have those Sarah Dessen books done as well. Hopefully within a allotted amount of time. Fingers crossed. I hope so, is the answer that I want to at least put out into the world. I want to start writing a novel called From Me to You, and it's a young adult novel, kind of based on some nonfiction events that have happened in my life. I really want to kind of bring something new to it. Just kind of like Nora and Nick's playlist book, or the Nick and Nora's playlist. There's songs in the novel, and it kind of shapes the scene and the chapter, and I kind of want to do that too. I want to bring music, which is really important to me and to the individuals that it involves, into the story. I'd love to bring some Instagram, some social media things to it as well. So that's something that I hope to get started here very soon. I'm also working on a book of poetry. Not sure how successful poetry is going to be for me. I'm working on retelling some fairy tales via poetry. I'd also love to write another retelling of a fairy tale. I just don't want to do one that is very well known. Snow White, Cinderella, Rapunzel. Everybody knows those fairy tales. Everybody's retold them a bajillion times. So I'd like to tackle something that hasn't really been retold very much. That's what I hope for myself. The advice that I would give to an aspiring writer is to never give up on your dream. Never. I was 14 when I wrote down in a journal that a part of my bucket list was to write a novel, and I would have never guessed at the age of, I think I was 25 when I first got my book out. I would have never guessed that. So don't ever sell yourself short. Always write. Always write. Always write. Keep developing your skill, because if you don't, you're never going to become the writer that you deserve to be. Editing is a big, big part of writing, and I absolutely hate it. I absolutely hate editing, but make the time for it. Make the time for it. Make the effort to make your piece the best piece that it can be. I want to say, do your research when it comes to publishing companies. Make sure you know exactly what you're getting yourself into. Make sure you read everything. Don't be scared to ask questions. I'm finding that there are a lot of people out in the writing world who are, I don't want to say just as clueless, but because I am certainly clueless when it comes to certain things. But there are certain people, writers, authors, publishers out there who are asking the same questions that you want to ask. So don't be afraid to ask them. Take the time to make friends with authors. Make the time to make friends with people along the way, because they might end up being able to help you in a way that you couldn't help yourself, or help your novel, grow. Just never stop. Never stop. Your dream is your dream, and only you can make it possible. As the great Walt Disney said, if you can dream it, you can do it. And, I dreamed it and I did it. And I didn't just do it once, I did it twice. And so can you. So can you. Just never give up. Never give up on that dream. Never give in. Don't ever stop just because you think it's impossible. Because nothing is impossible. And I could start singing a song, but I will not do that. Um, and just always be aware that writing is always developing. Um, your writing is always growing, always changing. So you may think you wrote the end and that's it, but it's not. You're going to change things. Scenes are going to change. Characters are going to change. You're going to go through the editing at least 4, 5, 6 times, maybe even more. And you should be doing that more. So don't be afraid of making a mistake. Don't be afraid of changing something, and always be practicing your skill, because it's just like any profession. You need to know what you're doing, and you need to be the best at it for yourself. You don't want to go to a mechanic who might have only changed your tire twice. I mean, what if your tire pops off, So be the writer who is always writing, whether it's on a blog, on Tumblr, with a friend, by yourself. Always, always write. Keep perfecting your skill, because you'll never get better unless you keep doing what you love to do. And I would say once it becomes something that you don't love to do, you need to stop and kind of take a step back and do something that you love that isn't writing. Yeah. So that's my advice. Just do what you love. Never negotiate, or, never give up on your dream. Don't ever give in to somebody just because they don't think that you're a great writer. And do your research. Just don't ever stop. Don't ever stop. Because you can do it. That's a hard one. I would say instant gratification me says movies. I prefer books though, because then I get to learn more about the character. I get to learn more about, the story, the setting, the things that not everybody knows or a director can put into a movie. So, movies is self gratifying, instant gratification. Books is probably my real answer. Again, really hard to answer that. Um, I can't. I really can't, because I have 2 cats here, Theo and Harper, and my mom has Taryn, which is our Yorkie puppy, and I love all of them. So, I do prefer Taryn because he plays and he's fun and he's really cute. But I also really love my 2 cats here at home. So, both. I would have to just say summer. Just summer. I can't do snow, and I hate being cold. I'm constantly cold. Summer, I can deal with the heat because there's air conditioning. But I like to just I love to wear shorts. I love to put flip flops on. So summer, hands down, ice cream. Tea berry ice cream, to all the people who know what tea berry ice cream is. I've never been on a motorcycle, so I guess I'd have to say car. There is just something about a physical book that is just fantastic. I will never get over physical books. Um, Me and a very close friend of mine say that the smell of a book really determines the worth of a book. So if it smells good, then it's definitely a good book. If it doesn't smell good, or if it doesn't have a scent to it, it's just not worth your time, and you put that thing right back down. I don't really have a lot of nights out, and it's probably because I don't prefer them. I'm more of an introvert, so I would probably say nights in. I don't really like to go out. I don't really like to go, I don't want to say be around people, but I don't really like to be around people, so nights in. I've only ever really lived in the country. Even Dover, Delaware really isn't the city in the sense of like New York City. Um, I don't, again, I don't really like a lot of people like in a big crowd. So country. I like rolling hills and mountains and cornfields and everybody knowing everybody and just kind of a slower sort of living. The city is great for, civilization, finding that restaurant that you can never find anywhere else. Broadway shows were amazing, but I just couldn't see myself living in a city and being happy. Not at all. I would pick telepathy because there is nothing better than sharing my thought with somebody and just being able to speak through our minds. That would be awesome. Especially when I like end up looking at someone like read my mind. I don't have to do that anymore. They'd just be able to read my mind. I would have to say I would pick traveling in the past. I am a huge fan of British history. I mean, history in general. American history is fascinating, but my real my real love is British history. So if I could go back to like Richard III, Henry VIII, um, even like Jane Austen era, the Georgian times, um, Victorian times, that's really the era that would just that whole scan of time. I'd love to be able to just see, experience. I think especially the time of Jane Austen. Men were gentlemen. They stood when you came into a room. There was just this courtship that happened that is just very romantic to me. Just the idea of, I don't know, being courted, being. And maybe it's just the Jane Austen books and movies that have influenced the way that I think of that time. I just love the properness and the mannerisms and the balls and just everything about that. If I could be rich and go back, that's how I would want to go back. If I had to go back, not so far, maybe the 50s. I still got this thing about poodle skirts that I just wish I could experience. So, yeah. I prefer making phone calls now. I don't know why. Normally I'd probably say sending a text message, but there is nothing better than calling my mom or calling somebody and just talking to them rather than a text message because sometimes it's hard to write everything that you want to write in a text message. So, might as well just say it. And now I sound like my dad, which is not a bad thing. I don't know. I like both. I like both. The car ride is fun. Airplanes are fun too. I just don't like to go through security. It's the only thing I don't like about airplanes. But probably preferably a car. Just more fun. You can get out whenever you want to. Roll down the windows, blast some music. Um, Traveling the airplane, you're kind of in an uncomfortable seat and you're listening to someone's baby crying because that's what happens to me. Someone's baby is always crying. Staying in a hotel. I actually love staying in hotels. I don't know what it is about hotels. Um, I think it's just the idea that it's somebody else's bed. They have to make it. Discovering the showers. It's great. I just went to Colorado in, I want to say November, and The shower there at the Union Station, the Crawford Hotel, was fantastic. It was like a rain shower. I never wanted to get out of that thing. So there's just something about staying in a hotel that is just fantastic. As much as I like to work in groups with people, it always normally boils down to me doing the work, so probably just me working alone. I can get things done a lot faster because I'm the one who's responsible for everything. I'd probably want to lose all my money. Just take my money. Just because pictures have become this really invaluable thing to me. Um, like my dad just passed away, so it's kind of been this thing for me to collect any photograph of him, any video of him, any sound recording of him. Um, a lot of those photos were pictures that I did take, so I'd lose a lot of those. Every picture that it was ever taken of me, I probably wouldn't mourn too much. Um, but pictures are just this thing that are irreplaceable. There's no value to them because they're so you can't put a price on something that's so priceless, you know? So, I mean, I'd rather be a poor person and have all my photos with me than be a rich person with nothing to show. So, that's what I'd pick. Well, to solve this issue to this question, because it is a really hard one, everyone wants to find true love, and in the sense of like true love, like fairy tale true love. Of course, like I would love to find like Prince Charming who owns a castle and I can just go live there forever, but ideally and honestly, it's just not realistic and it doesn't happen in the world anymore. Um, and even for that matter, I don't know if it really did happen. So I would say the answer to this question is to win the lottery. And then if you didn't have somebody, you could just join Match.com and, use some of your money for a subscription and find somebody. Or if you're like me and you're engaged, you just win the lottery and hope for the best. So, yes, that's my answer. Hmm. I've always had a thing for Spider-Man, so I think I would say Spider-Man.